I'm Jane Alalibo, and I'll be taking you on the subject English language. We'll be looking at a very interesting topic today, adjectives, in the theme grammatical accuracy. At the end of the lesson, I expect that you know what adjectives are first, be able to identify adjectives in sentences, and also use adjectives in making different sentences. Now let's go into our lesson. What is an adjective? An adjective is a word that modifies or describes a noun or pronoun. Do I need to remind you of what a pronoun or noun is? A noun is a word that names a person, animal, place, thing, or idea. And a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun, that is the name of a person, place, animal, thing, or idea. For example, he. He refers to a boy, and it could take the place of a boy's name. So instead of saying something like, John is my friend, you could easily say, he is my friend. That is for noun and pronoun. So an adjective is a word that describes or modifies a noun or pronoun. And by describe and modify, I mean that an adjective tells you more about the noun. It could tell you the size, the shape, the look, quality, sound, taste, or even color. It gives you information about the noun that is being talked about. Let's take a look at some different adjectives that we have. Remember, we said we use the adjectives to tell size, shape, the way a thing looks or a noun looks. So for size, we use words like big, tall, small, large, short, little, tiny, and etc. These are adjectives because you can use them in describing people or different things. And we use this type of adjectives in talking about size. For example, you can say, I am a big girl. What is the noun in the sentence? Girl. The name of a person is a general name for females. I am a big girl. The word big has described the kind of girl I am. I am a big girl. So big is an adjective. These are some of the adjectives that we have in the English language. We also have adjectives that we use to describe quality, the quality of a person or thing. Some of these adjectives include honest, kind, beautiful, good, bad, bold, or brave. You could say he is a brave man. The word brave has told you the kind of man he is. Bravery is a quality that the man possesses. These are adjectives. We also have adjectives that we use in talking about opinions or observations. That is what you personally think about something. Some examples of this type of adjectives include lovely, interesting, comfortable, amazing, and wonderful. For example, you could watch a movie and you enjoy the movie. You could say, this is an interesting movie. While you think it's an interesting movie, someone else could think it's a boring movie. That is why it is an adjective that describes opinion or personal observation. We also have adjectives that we use in talking about distance. The distance between you and something or two different things. For example, we have far, near, long, or close. You could say the grocery shop is close or the grocery shop is far. What is the noun in the sentence? Grocery shop, the name of a place. And the word far tells you the distance, or the word close tells you the distance between where you are and the grocery shop. So these are adjectives that we use in talking about distance. Note that the adjectives which we have mentioned are not all the adjectives that we have. These are only but a few of the adjectives that we have in the English language. Now we also have adjectives that we use in talking about quantity. You can see they include 3, 8, few, many, and several. You might wonder if numbers are adjectives. They are when they are used in describing a noun or pronoun. For example, you can say, I have 3 fingers, or I have 5 fingers. 5 describes fingers. Fingers is a thing on your body. So when we have numbers describing nouns, they are adjectives. Now we have adjectives that also talk about tastes. Remember we said adjectives provide more information, a word that tells you more about a noun, any kind of information. It provides number, the way it looks, the size, the shape, is an adjective. So we also have adjectives that tell us how a noun tastes. For example, you have sweet, sour, bitter, and delicious. You can say these oranges are sweet, or these oranges are sour. The word sweet and sour tell you more about the noun oranges. They are called adjectives. Now we're going to use adjectives in making sentences. Read with me. Mother bought me a beautiful dress. Mother bought me a beautiful dress. What is the noun in the sentence? Mother, that's one noun. The name of a person. Bought me a beautiful dress. Dress is another noun. The name of a thing. Now, can we look for a word that describes the nouns that we have in the sentence? Does any word describe mother here? No. Now, does any word describe dress? Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful is the adjective. You could easily say, mother bought me a dress without the word beautiful, and it still makes sense. But when you say, mother bought me a beautiful dress, it tells you the kind of dress that mother bought. Adjectives provide more information or tell you more about the noun. The water is cold. Which word describes the noun here? The noun is water. And the word that describes the noun is cold. He is a smart boy. This is a large table. This orange is sweet. Mr. Obi is a brave man. Amina is a good girl. You can see that the words that are colored are adjectives, and they tell us more about a noun. Now, colors. Different colors that we have, we can name them red, blue, yellow, orange. Colors can also be referred to as adjectives only when they describe the way something looks or a person looks. A color is an adjective when it tells you more about a noun. I can say, I am a fair girl. Fair describes color. So fair is an adjective. Now let's look at some examples. I love that White House over there. The noun is house, the name of a thing or a place. A house is a place. It could also be regarded as an object or a thing. Now, which word tells us more about the house? White. White is a color, and it tells us the color of the house, which makes it worth an adjective. So colors can also be regarded as adjectives. I have a red pen. I prefer the pink dress to the blue one. Colors can also be regarded as adjectives when they tell more about a noun or pronoun. Now, sometimes in our sentences, we use more than one adjective to qualify or describe a noun or pronoun. Now, when we use more than one adjective like this, sometimes we use a comma, and other times we do not use a comma. Let's look at that in some examples. This is my new red bicycle. What is the noun in the sentence? Correct, bicycle. Bicycle is the noun. It's the name of a thing. Now, which word describes bicycle? Let's read the sentence again. This is my new red bicycle. Does new describe the bicycle? Yes, it does. That means new is an adjective. It tells us that the bicycle, it's new. It's not old. It looks new. New describes the way it looks, and it also describes quality. It is brand new. It's new. Red, like we just learned about colors, also tells you more about the bicycle. All this information, new and red, gives you a picture of how the bicycle looks. So you see that we have more than one adjective in the sentence. This is my new red bicycle. And do we have a comma? No. I'll tell us why we do not have a comma. Let's look at the other sentences. We have a round glass table in a parlor. The noun in the sentence is table. And round tells you the shape of the table. Glass, it tells you the quality or texture of the table. So the two adjectives qualify this one noun. I found an old silver coin. Coin, an object, noun. Old tells us that the coin is old. It's been there for a long time. Silver tells us the color and also the quality. Silver and old are the adjectives qualifying the noun coin. You must have noticed that we do not have commas in all of these sentences, but let's look at this one now. She met a nice, handsome man. How does the man look? He's handsome. And what qualities does he possess? He is nice. You can see that we have a comma. Remember I said sometimes we use commas and other times we don't. But we have to be very careful in our use of commas to separate adjectives. One easy way you can learn this or apply this is by checking if you put the word and. Assuming you put this word and in between the adjectives, will it make sense? Let's try it now. This is my new and red bicycle. Does that make sense? It sounds a little bit clumsy. This is my new and red bicycle. You do not need and, so you do not need a comma. This is my new red bicycle. It still makes sense without the word and. In fact, it makes more sense without the word and. Let's look at this last sentence where we have a comma. She met a nice and handsome man. That makes sense, right? Yes. If we put and here, it still sounds correct or even more correct. She met a nice and handsome young man. So in place of and, we put a comma. So whenever you want to put a comma or leave the comma out in between adjectives, you should just try this little experiment. And if it works, you put your comma or you leave it out. This is how we use more than one adjective in a sentence. Know that you can use more than two, 3 adjectives as far as you're able to place them properly, with or without a comma. Now we have different types of adjectives, and these different types of adjectives perform different functions in sentences. The first we have is the possessive adjective. Now these are adjectives that are used to show ownership. Remember what we learned about possessive nouns? Yes, possessive nouns are also used to show ownership. The same thing goes for adjectives. And the possessive adjectives we have are my, the singular, and the plural is are, when talking about more than one. Your, his, their, her, their, and its, their. Note that these possessive adjectives are sometimes referred to as pronouns. Why? Because they take the place of a noun. Instead of saying this is Jane's pen, I could say this is my pen. In that case, you call it a pronoun because I've used it to replace my name. Now, how do we now refer to these words as possessive adjectives? We use them when they provide more information about the noun. I said this is my pen. This is a pen. We don't know who owns it. It's just a pen. Now, if I say this is my pen, that shows that it belongs to me. So the word my has given you more information about who owns the noun. So in that case, these words that are sometimes regarded as pronouns can also be seen as adjectives. Now let's look at these words in sentences. This is my pencil. My tells you who owns the pencil. It provides more information about the noun. They came to our house yesterday. I like her lunchbox. Please give me your notebook. Their vehicle broke down on the way. These adjectives tell you who owns what. They are possessive adjectives that show ownership. Now we also have the adjectives that we call demonstrative adjectives, just like we had demonstrative nouns. Now, when are they called demonstrative adjectives? They are used to indicate or point to something in particular. They indicate or point to something, a noun or pronoun, of course, in particular. It shows the noun that is being referred to. And these demonstrative adjectives are this and that. The plural form of this is these, and that is those. Let's look at them in examples. First, we must know that we use this and these for things that are close by, things that are close to you. And we use that and those for things that are far. So if I want to refer to a vehicle that I see down the road, I could say, that car is beautiful. Or if I want to talk about this pen that is right before me now, I could say, this pen has a red base. Now let's look at examples. These crayons are mine. Demonstrative adjectives. They point to the particular thing that you're talking about. If I say crayons are mine, you'll be wondering which crayons. Maybe you have crayons scattered all over. When I say these crayons, I'm showing you that these particular crayons, these ones, are mine. Demonstrative adjectives help to point or show the particular noun that is being referred to. I remember we said we use this and these for things that are close. I like those shoes. This is a little bit fast, so we can say, I like those shoes. That dress is very beautiful. This soup is delicious. The next type of adjective we're going to be looking at is the interrogative adjective. These adjectives are used to ask questions or inquire about something. Something here, we're talking about nouns and pronouns, since the topic we're looking at is adjectives. So interrogative adjectives are used to ask questions or inquire about more information of a noun or pronoun. They are whose, where, which, what, and how. Now let's see how these interrogative adjectives are used. We use them to ask questions like we said. Example, whose pencil is this? We're trying to inquire about the noun, so we use the interrogative adjective, whose. Which of these bags belong to you? What team won the football game? How many erasers do you have? Where did mother go to? You can see that one way or the other, these adjectives refer or describe or talk about the noun in the sentence. And when you ask questions with these adjectives, the answer you get must be information about the noun. For example, I ask you, where did mother go to? You may now say, mother went to the market. So that the answer provided or the answer given to these questions with interrogative adjectives are information about the noun. which is the major job of adjectives. They provide more information or tell you more about a noun or pronoun. Those are the different types of adjectives that we have. Now we're going to move into comparative forms of adjectives. We use adjectives to talk about nouns and pronouns. Now if you want to place two nouns and pronouns side by side and talk about them, check where they are similar and check where they are different. Check where one is better than the other. We still use adjectives in their comparative form. This means adjectives are used to compare nouns and pronouns to one another. And to compare, we use the comparative form and superlative forms of adjectives. Let's look at that now. We form the comparative form of an adjective by adding er to the word, and we form the superlative form of the adjective by adding est. Let's look at that. Take a look at this table. We have some adjectives here. These words are used in describing nouns: big, small, fat, tall, short, and the rest of them. Now, to form the comparative, we just said we add er, and big becomes bigger. And to form the superlative form, we add est, and it becomes biggest. Big, comparative form, bigger, and superlative form, biggest. You might wonder, what is the difference between the comparative form and the superlative form? We use the comparative form when we want to compare two things. That is, I have two hands. I want to compare this hand to the other hand. I use the comparative form. For example, I could say, this hand is shorter than this hand. And we said we form the comparative by adding er. While we use the superlative form when talking about 3 or more than 3, that is when you have more than 2. Why? Because you cannot place them side by side. We use the comparative when you can place two things side by side and compare them. But if it's 3, you can't. Therefore, you use the superlative form. For example, you have 2 friends. That is, you guys are 3. You could say, I am the tallest of my friends, or I am the tallest among my friends. If you are just 2, you could say, I am taller than her, or I am taller than BC. But when it's more than 2, that's 3, you say, I am the tallest of my friends. We use the comparative for 2 and superlative for more than 2. Now let's look at some of these adjectives in their comparative and superlative forms. Big, bigger, biggest. Small, smaller, smallest. Fat, fatter, fattest. Tall, taller, tallest. Short, shorter, shortest. High, higher, highest. Long, longer, longest. Heavy, heavier, heaviest. And smart, smarter, smartest. Now, let me draw your attention to something very important. When you have an adjective that ends with a Y, you remember what we do to verbs and nouns that end with Y. We do the same thing for adjectives. When you have an adjective that ends with a Y, you replace the Y with I and then you add ER for the comparative form. And for the superlative form, you replace the Y with I again and then you add EST. We do this for words that end with Y, which is why we have this word heavy. You can see the Y. And when we want to put it in the comparative form, we now have I. Y has been changed to I, and then you add ER. The same thing goes for the superlative form. Very easy. Take note of words that end with Y or adjectives that end with Y. Now let's look at these comparative forms of adjectives in sentences. My football is bigger than yours. Another very important thing. When comparing two things, you do not just say, my football is bigger, yours. No, we must add the word than. That's for the comparative form. You use the adjective and the word than. My football is bigger than yours. Tolu is smarter than her twin sister. This box is heavier than that one. Bayo is the tallest of his father's children. Now we have adjectives that totally change form in their comparative and superlative form. They are called irregular adjectives. Just like we have irregular verbs, irregular nouns, we also have irregular adjectives. Some examples of this kind of adjectives include good, bad, little, and much. If you want to compare two people together, will you say maybe BC is gooder than Bola? This is very, very wrong grammatically. Why? Good is an irregular adjective and it totally changes form in the comparative and superlative form. Now, how does it change? Let's look at that. Good in the comparative becomes better, and in the superlative, it is best. So instead of saying BC is gooder than Bola, you say BC is better than Bola. And some other adjectives that change form in the comparative and superlative. We have bad, badder, no. Bad, worse, worst. Little, less, least. Much, more, most. Or many, more, most. These are irregular adjectives. Now let's use them in making sentences. You play tennis better than I do. This car is less expensive than that one. The new teacher is worse than the old teacher. Now we also have another special type of adjectives that we form the comparative and superlative in a different form. There are adjectives that have more than one syllable, adjectives with two or more syllables. When we have such adjectives, we add more to the word in the comparative form. And for the superlative, we add most to the word. We do not add ER or EST. And also, the word does not change. We just add these words, more for the comparative and most for the superlative. And they must come before the adjective. For example, important. This word has how many syllables? 3. Important. When we say a word has more than one syllable, it means that in pronouncing that word, you have 2 vowel sounds. The word bad. How many syllables does this word have? 1. Why? In pronouncing it, we have just one vowel. Bad. But for important, we have 3. In, vowel I, por, o, tant, 3 pronunciations. When you have words that have 2 or more, we do not add ER or EST. We just use more for the comparative form and most for the superlative. Important, more important, most important. Wonderful, more wonderful, most wonderful. Intelligent, more intelligent, most intelligent. Interesting, more interesting, most interesting. Quiet, more quiet, most quiet. Popular, more popular, and most popular. Now let's use them in making sentences. Tolu is more intelligent than her twin sister. The headmistress is the most popular person in the school. Do you remember why we do not have Dan? In a school, how many people do you have? So many. And of all these people, the most popular is the headmistress. We're comparing more than two. So we use the superlative form. Our drama was more interesting than theirs. Making good grades is more important than wearing the best clothes. The library is the most quiet place in the school. That is all for our lesson on adjectives. Now let's do a summary of everything which we learned. What was the first thing we learned? We learned that adjectives are words that modify, describe, tell more, or say something about nouns and pronouns. We can also use more than one adjective in a sentence. Yes, we can. And sometimes we add comma and other times we don't. We also learned that there are different types of adjectives. Can you list them? We said we had the possessive adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, and interrogative adjectives. And finally, we learned about the comparative forms of adjectives. Adjectives are used to compare one noun or pronoun to the other. Now, our test section, which is another very interesting part. Question 1. Which of the following is not an adjective? A, beautiful. B, long. C, right. And D, intelligent. Which of them is not an adjective? Beautiful, is it an adjective or not? It is, because it can describe a noun or pronoun. Long, is that an adjective? Yes, it is. It can describe a noun or pronoun. Right, is that an adjective? Can right describe a person or a thing or an animal? No, it can't. Instead, right is a verb. It is an action, to write. And D, intelligent, is that an adjective? Yes, it is. It can describe a noun. The correct answer is C. Right is a verb, not an adjective. And question 2, the last question. Which one of the following sentences is correct? A, Tolu is smartest than her twin sister. B, Tolu is the smartest between herself and her twin sister. C, Tolu is more smarter than her twin sister. And D, Tolu is smarter than her twin sister. Which of the sentences is correct? A, Tolu is smartest than her twin sister. Is that correct? No. We use smartest when comparing more than two. So A is wrong. Tolu is smartest between herself and her twin sister. That is just so long, and it is incorrect. Tolu is more smarter than her twin sister. Is that correct? Not really. More smarter. We do not add more to words like smart. Why? Because you can easily add ER. So this is wrong. Remember we said we use more when we have words that have more than one syllable. And the word smart has just one syllable. Tolu is smarter than her twin sister. Is that correct? Yes, the correct answer is D. Tolu is smarter than her twin sister. That is the correct way to say it. Now, sometimes you get to hear people say things like, Tolu is more smarter than her twin sister. Of course, they mean the same thing, and if someone says that to you, you might understand, but that is the wrong grammatical form. To say it very, very correctly, you have to apply the principles. You use comparative form to compare two things. And remember the different ways we use comparative forms. When you have a word that has more than one syllable, you add more or most for the superlative. And when you have words with one syllable, that is for a regular verb, you just add ER. I hope you've learned exactly how to use adjectives and also identify adjectives in sentences. That's the end of our lesson. Thank you and bye.